Oh, Transformers Generation 2. Probably one of the most unusual toy lines in Transformers history. Really, I consider it the line when Transformers started to try to be hip. And then Hasbro realized, oh, there are robots that fight and transform into cars. They don't need to be hip to be cool. If you really don't believe me, you should watch some of the G2 commercials where they have freaking raps about the Transformer toys. No, I wish I was kidding. That is actually a real thing. And yes, the raps are painfully stupid and corny. They're almost as bad as that stupid Legend of Zelda rap from those Nintendo commercials. The reason why G2 is kind of bizarre is that pretty much all the Generation 2 toys was just G1 toys repainted. I think Hasbro was like really running out of ideas by the time Generation 2 rolled around. Although there were some original molds, and some of those original molds were actually quite good. It was still kind of a meh series. It really was kind of a mess, really. But to be fair, Generation 2 has its purposes, since most of the toys were just Generation 1 toys that were repainted in really ghastly colors. The Generation 2 toys aren't really as desired as the Generation 1 toys. And if you're like me and you really are desperate for a Generation 1 toy, but you don't really want to pay the money that he goes for, you could always get the Generation 2 counterpart, which is usually cheaper. This is said toy. Generation 2 Sideswipe. And yeah, amazingly, he actually gets off fairly well in the scheme of things of the those nasty Generation 2 colors. He's painted in a nice black and molded with some red. And so as his colors go, he actually is a fairly standard warm colored figure. Usually they're paint colored in these very neonish colors, but it's kind of broken up by all this neon green all over him, which I normally wouldn't have a problem with, except it's kind of ruined by the fact that he has his name plastered all over the toy. SS. Yes, I see what they tried to do there, but failed miserably at it. And of course, Sideswipe written on the spoiler. And of course, these nasty lime green headlights. What Lamborghini have you ever seen with the lime green headlights? And of course, you got the gold Lamborghini logo. Well, let's talk about the actual toy, shall we? This is a Lamborghini Countach LP500S. Exactly what model year, I'm not 100% sure. But the Lamborghini LP500S is probably one of the more popular models, right next to the other one that was right before this one. I can't remember exactly what that one was called. It could also be confused as the LP5000S, which actually is not the proper name for it. There was another model that actually was called the LP5000, but that was called the LP5000QV, if I recall correctly. And this is clearly not it. The QV is a little bit chunkier, it's got a bit more to it. But yeah, the Lamborghini Countach was always a, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I guess a bombshell of a car. It was very popular when it came out, and yeah, it got a lot of attention because, I mean, just look at the damn thing. It's a very cool looking car, and the original one came out in the late 70s. Well, probably the early 70s, but it came out in the 70s. Can't remember exactly the date. I think it might have been 1974. I'm not 100% sure. But over the years, they redesigned it, and it was regarded as one of the better supercars, but by no means was it really a good car. It had a lot of problems, like the car got really hot inside, the air conditioning didn't really work all that well, and no, if you're wondering, rolling down the windows didn't help a whole lot. As you can tell by the way these windows are shaped, only this bottom bit right here would roll down, so only maybe a quarter of the window would roll down. Didn't let in a whole lot of wind, and on top of that it was really cramped inside. But the biggest problem out of all of those was the rear visibility. Can't really demonstrate it too well in this toy because there's not actually a rear window, but see that tiny little gap? This is actually not too off of what the real car would have. Yeah, this was the biggest problem. The rear visibility was pretty much none. You had this tiny little window, and a lot of other Lamborghini Countach models had a little hump right here. This particular model doesn't have it. And of course, you would also have this spoiler here on the back. So pretty much all rear visibility was non-existent, and it was extremely hard to park the car, especially parallel parking. In fact, if you wanted to parallel park, the best thing to do was, and I'm not making this up, you could actually go and watch Top Gear review of it if you really want to. you had to open one of the doors, which, you know, one of the main reasons why the Countach was regarded as such a popular car is because of its crazy scissor-style doors, and that's become a trademark of Lamborghinis, of course. And you would have to sit kind of like halfway outside of the car just to fucking park the thing. It was a bit of a flawed design. But yeah, not a lot can be said about the LP500S. I don't really know too much of the specifications. Not really a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get him into robot mode. I'm gonna have to readjust the camera. Y'all know the drill of G1s. Always show the transformation on camera of G1 toys, because they're just so simplistic. Oh, there's the Autobot logo. He has the, that's the Generation 2 Autobot logo, so they tried to redo the Generation 2 Autobot logo. And on this side, he has the traditional Autobot logo. I'm not really sure why they did that. Not sure why they made a new logo. They also made a new Decepticon emblem too, if you're wondering. On his head. So here he is, and yeah, he stands up fairly well because pretty much all this down here is metal, so he's actually got quite a bit of weight to him. Not a whole lot really to discuss. I mean, he's a G1 toy, so there's not really a whole lot going for him. His arms can rotate, and he can kind of do this, and that's pretty much all he has. Oh yeah, his head can kind of look up if you really so desire. But other than that, not a lot can really be said about this particular toy. Other than, well, I'm just happy that I have him. That's really the only thing I can really say about him, because he's a very elusive toy for me. It took me forever to get my hands on a G1 Sideswipe, and this actually is a toy that I've been wanting for a very long time. And I still don't have the proper G1 Sideswipe because this is G2 Sideswipe. Although it is pretty much exactly the same toy as G1 Sideswipe, just with a goofy color scheme. In fact, I'll probably end up taking off these stickers at some point. Don't know if I will though. Still up for debate. There's actually a set of repro label stickers that you can actually buy for, I think it actually kind of was intended for G2 Sideswipe with some slight modifications done to him. If you paint these red spots black, you could turn him into an evil Decepticon version of Sideswipe, which actually looks pretty nice. It looks better than all this fucking lime green and shit. Oh, and I want to point this out here on the stickers. I don't know if it will show up on camera, but if you look on his kneecap, focus! Ugh, fuck. If you look on his kneecap, you can see it says LP500S. I thought that was a nice bit of attention to detail on Hasbro and Takara's part, but to be fair, this was a Diaclone at first, and you know, these were stickers that were on the Diaclone figure, so I mean, can't really give Hasbro too much credit on that part. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can really say about this guy. Would I recommend picking him up? Oh hell yes. You could find him pretty cheap on eBay, especially the G2 version. I got this guy for like $15. You could if you looked hard enough, you could probably find one that was complete for about $30. And the original Sideswipe figure goes for about the same amount. And yeah, not a lot can really be said about this guy. I should point out that he did come with this ugly lime green rocket launcher that pretty much all the G2 toys came with. They all came with almost exactly the same rocket launcher. Inferno was one of the weird ones. Inferno came actually with a water gun. I guess that's cool, I suppose. Well, that's pretty much all. That's pretty much it. I'm serious this time. This is it. Turn off the camera!